Switching gears now, when it comes to space exploration by the United States, things have been slowing down significantly in the last few decades. And just in the last few years, we've watched, for example, the shuttle program disappear entirely and funding for NASA cut exponentially. Now, the news is not all bad. We did just get news that NASA's rover Curiosity successfully landed on Mars earlier today on a mission to better explore the red planet. But projects like this are difficult, and even though the U.S. still spends the most money, another country is looking to compete. China is spending more and more money on space exploration and even is planning a mission to the moon by the second half of next year. If they make it, they're likely to see a few things left on the moon by Americans. 5 out of 6 American flags still stand on the moon. Some crashed space probes are also there, and even some golf balls hit by Apollo 14 astronaut Alan Shepard. But folks, on a more serious note, are we entering a new age with a space race the U.S. may not be able to win this time around? Joining me now is Philip Plait, astronomer and blogger at The Bad Astronomer. Hey there, Philip. I know we saw the much-needed success by NASA last night, but do you think this marks a much-needed fresh start?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in space right now, and the U.S. is not the only one doing it. That's something to be aware of. The landing of Curiosity last night was amazing. It was an incredibly complex mission that went off without a hitch, and there were a lot of ways it could have gone wrong. So that shows very clearly that NASA is still doing what it does best. The problem, of course, is that there are being government cutbacks in its funding. At the same time, though, we have private industry coming in, building rockets, which are also having successful missions. So there's a kind of a weird dichotomy going on there. In the meantime, as you said, China is looking toward the moon, and that's something we should be aware of. And you said, are we coming into a new space race? Well, maybe, and I really hope we're not, because I don't like the idea of racing other countries, because that tends to make people rush to do something and then forget about it when it's done. I'd rather be in this for the long haul so that we have a permanent presence in space.
But, as far as a race, it was also a competition, and a competition that drove countries to develop. Of course, before it was between the U.S. and Russia. Russia now, in a lot of cases, is sort of our chauffeurs these days. I know that our, International Space Station, the U.S.'s International Space Station, sort of writes, that this ends in not that long, less than 10 years, in 2020, and China's hoping to get in on that. I mean, do you think that this could bring back a new drive to develop?
I hope so. I just hope it's done in the right way. We need to invest in space, because when we do, at the very bottom line, we get a lot of money back. Apollo has paid itself off in innovation and technology long time ago, despite the vast amount of money we put in it. And space exploration always pays off, even if you don't know exactly what part of it will come back and make you more money. Right now, like you said, Russia is the only way we can get into space as far as astronauts go, although now just announced that 3 different companies are going to be sponsored by NASA with grants to bring humans back into space by around 2015. So right now, there's a lot of hair pulling and a lot of rending of garments. I suspect by 2016 or 2017, we're going to see the dawn of a new space era.
Now, when we talk about China, kind of pouring more money into this, and they're also planning to go to the moon. Now, the U.S., of course, has been there already. They're planning to go there in the next year or so. Do you think this announcement is simply, step one in a much more involved process that they're preparing for?
Sure. Oh, yeah. And the Chinese have not really been boasting that much. They've been saying, we're going to do this, and then next thing, boom, they've done it. So their space program is for real, and they're doing what they're claiming. Going to the moon at first with orbiters and landers is a prelude to landing there and with people. America went there in the 1960s and early 1970s, but we abandoned it. We didn't go there with the idea to stay. We went there with an idea to beat the Soviet Union. Well, we did, and we haven't been back as far as humans go. And China's not stupid. They're doing this. They feel that there's a reason to do this, and the reason to do this is in the spirit of exploration, but also because there's a lot of stuff you can do on the moon as far as natural resources and just having a presence in space. And it's something other countries, America, Russia, and the others, should be taking seriously.
Yeah, I interviewed California Congressman Dana Rohrabacher a few days ago, and I asked him, just kind of focusing on this relationship with China. On one hand, of course, China has helped the U.S. significantly when the U.S. gets into some financial trouble. But on the other hand, China is often seen as, our #1 competitor. So I want to play really quick, Philip, his response.
We have built China into a major economic power without demanding any type of political reforms. We've been given them most favored nation status, one-way free trade. We permitted them to steal our technology. They get away with murder, quite literally economically, or figuratively economically, but quite literally, in reality, when they're murdering dissidents and taking the people, religious dissenters like the Falun Gong, and throwing them into prison. So what we've got is we've created a monster. What was a very weak country before, we have permitted them to build into a massive economic power.
So I guess, Philip, my question for you is this drive by the Chinese to space just simply another example of them sort of, catching up?
Well, they are catching up, but they're also surpassing us in many ways. That they have actually the capability to put humans in space, and they do have the capability to go to the moon. America probably will again soon if the NASA rocket program doesn't get off the ground, literally or figuratively. SpaceX and other companies are building large rockets to do that. And yes, China, I have a lot of issues with China as a government. On the other hand, I have a lot of issues with the United States as a government too. So I'd rather see us cooperating and doing this in a friendly manner than in any sort of space race or competition.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, too, that we shouldn't forget about companies like SpaceX and some of those companies developing space on a more commercial basis. A lot going on there, and it is really interesting to follow. Good to have you on the show, Philip Plait, astronomer and blogger at The Bad Astronomer.